right, now. Okay. All right, we're live. We are live. Finally, what a debacle this has been.
Yep.
All right, now. Oh my gosh.
There we go. What's going on, guys?
Whew. I don't know. I'll let you guys talk. I need a few minutes to de-stress.
Me too. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Matt, take us away.
Oh my gosh.
I'm on the spot here. I don't know really.
Oh, there's echo.
Background
1
on what's
second.
happened here in the last 45 minutes.
All right.
Okay, well, we were.
Wait, can I still hear you guys?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, so anyways, I guess for me it starts like, so I had an appointment for my kid today, for doctor's appointment. So that took like 3 hours. So I got home, rushed to eat dinner, and let my dog out to go to the bathroom, Chief. And you can see he's not here right now. But so I throw some brats on the stove and on the skillet. I know that's not the grill, but get those going and come back to look for Chief, and he's just gone. He just nowhere to be seen. So I run all around the houses around. I drive up and down the street, and then I run out to this cornfield in the back and start like blowing my whistle. And then my wife calls me and says a neighbor came by and they got Chief at his house. So apparently all the neighbors know who Chief is, and he's like, we live on like a country road, and he's I mean, it's not like a super country road because the houses are pretty close together, but he's like 7 houses down, and so I don't know. He just loves to explore, unfortunately.
So then we got on here, and we planned to have old Fumblemitts on, and I don't know what the deal is. I know for a fact none of this was his fault, but I think that my parents are cursed with problems with technology. We spent the next 20 minutes trying to get him on here with us, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Did not happen, which it just didn't work out. So we're gonna have him on here though. So we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, we'll get it figured out during the week or something when we got no time constraints and no loose dogs, and also we got Matt with us today. So how's it going, Matt?
It's going. I'm having about the same kind of day you guys are. Just dropped my truck off yesterday for the 4th time in like 3 months. Just Ooh. It's going to crap. So
oh, that sucks.
Yep.
At least it wasn't during hunting season this time.
Oh yeah, that's the worst.
I think Matt's going to be the bright, cheery smile in this group today. That's my prediction. And I should be in a great mood because I was saying in my Instagram live stream, this is one of my very favorite days of the entire year, because as a teacher, this was my last day of school. So I do not have to report into work for 72 days.
Oh wow, that must be nice.
2 days, yeah. So nothing can bring me down today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 72 days.
That's a long vacation.
Yep. And in a week and a half, we're heading up to Matt's territory, and we're going to do some pike and bass fishing in the sandhills up there.
Nice.
I'm so excited about that. I'm gonna try to do 3 or 4 videos, maybe like a series of videos from that trip.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. It's so beautiful up there, and the weather's cooler, and I'm pumped.
You gonna have Matt guide you around, or
Hey, Matt, if you want to come and hang out during that time, you're welcome to do so. We're going to be fishing, I think, the 2nd and the 3rd. We're just going to be with kayaks, and bring your kayak up and hang out with us. You're more than welcome to do that.
I actually was planning or thinking about going up to Merritt next June 2nd, so I might have to hit you up on that.
Yeah, keep in touch. You can come either just say hi or spend the day on one of those lakes with us in your kayak and hang out, and feel free, man. That'd be sweet. I mean, you can come camp with us over at Big Alkali too. I mean, whatever.
All right. Yeah.
We got a group of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 7 or 8 people. One of my boys and my dad and Golden Boy and his grandpa and my cousin and his son. So it's just kind of whoever wants to come and bring their stuff. And we're going to, like I said, fish the 2nd and the 3rd. We don't fish Merritt because, well, we tried and we just can't catch them in Merritt like we do in those smaller lakes. We've never had success. I mean, it's so big.
Yeah. I've never fished it before, so that'd be a whole new experience for me. But I've always wanted to.
Yeah, well, for real, you know, if you want to, come on up, man. Bring a tent, or we've got a big tent. You can stay in our tent, you know, whatever.
Well, shoot, you guys are making me kind of jealous.
Yeah, let's exchange phone numbers after this, and we'll get in contact and see if that works. And that'd be cool. We could even do a little collab video or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. We'll try playing on that then.
Sweet. Ooh, Golden Boy's on. Aiden Shorney, the Golden Boy.
Well, that's a rare appearance.
Yeah, it is. Zach's here. Zach's
Luke's
one of my
here.
oldest following viewers. He is around all the time. I love that dude.
FDH and Faith is on.
That's what our new sister channel that we are debuting this fall.
Awesome. So is that Fumbles then?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. We just created that and we're uploading content to it. And it's just for those of people who are interested in more of our faith and what it's about, can head over to there. So we're excited about it.
Nice.
Very cool.
Is what's your opening day, Freelance?
I'd have to look at a calendar. Like the 9th. It falls in the second weekend of September.
Okay.
So we get 3 weekends in September. Then we normally have a weekend off, and then a zone opens up all through October out west. So
when's your early teal?
that's when it is. It's the first or second. It's the second weekend of September.
Okay, cool.
And then we have 3 weeks of teal. Then we get a week off, and then in our early zone, all the ducks open up like the first weekendish of October.
Gotcha. How about you, Matt? What's your opening days for early teal and duck?
Our early teal season, September 1st, the Labor Day weekend, and then we only have a 9-day season out here, like Nebraska split, so the eastern half has an extra week, so might have to make a trip back that way. Opening duck season, there we got a couple different zones around, so that opens the first weekend in October, I believe.
Nice.
How many zones do you have in Nebraska? How does it work? Like, how many breaks do you in Nebraska? Can you hunt from the start of teal? Can you hunt pretty much all the way through, or are there big breaks in there? How's that work?
After early teal season in the eastern half of the state closes, there's like a 2-week break, and then you can hunt all the way to basically the end of January.
How many zones is it Nebraska broke into?
We have 4 zones, and then it breaks it down. Some zones are in what they call, low plains is what they call it. So the high plains, which is where we're at, we get an additional 30 or 45 days. I can't remember what it is, but we get to hunt the whole month of January pretty much.
Oh, sweet. So you go into the Sandhills more further early, and then That's when you move into the high plains.
So you get ducks all of January?
Yeah. Yep.
Dang.
Goose, we got 4 goose zones too, and the goose opens up in the Sandhills about the same time as duck does, so you can actually shoot geese the opening day of duck season here.
Nice.
That varies from here. We can't get geese until later on, but we get them clear into February.
Yes, we do too.
Man, that's awesome. You guys have a longer season than we have. On the local forums, there's always a handful of guys that are cry about the multiple zone, and they're like, we want everything set at the same time. And I'm like, you are a moron. We basically get 135 days in this state if you're willing to travel around. I mean, if I travel 2 hours, 2.5 hours in any direction, I can hunt like 120, 130 days. If these guys have it the way they want, then we only would get 72 days.
So you get 130 days. How many days did you hunt?
I hunted this year, I think 32 of those.
You're not even getting half.
Not even close. And that's me hunting almost every single open opportunity that I got. But if I didn't have to work, I think I would probably still only hunt about 45.
Really? If you had all the weekdays, like if you were full-time, all you did was duck hunt, you'd only hunt 10 more days?
Well, I can only eat so much.
That's true.
I'd have to figure out the math, but I would probably go 2 or 3 times a week. I have no desire to go every single day. I go a couple days and I need to sleep. I just don't have a desire to go every single day. But I can go like 2 days, rest 2 days, 2 days like that. But It's just so much work and it's so tiring. I don't know how these guys do it and keep their wife and family happy at the same time.
Well, if they're all at work and school.
Yeah, I just think that I would go 2 or 3 times a week is probably what I would do.
Gotcha. I think I'd go 4, probably 4 times every other day.
And I would hunt the cold fronts, and like if it was really hot, I would hit it like 4 or 5 days, and then the ducks would get stale, and I would take a week break, and then another front. I would probably do it like that a lot too.
How about you, Matt?
That's what I would do. Currently, I hunt like both weekends, and then as it gets later season, I'll take every Friday off and hunt good days. I think, when the wind's gonna be just right for different spots. But I think I do about 4 or 5 days, and maybe do some deer hunting or something in between, or I don't know.
One of your, and I think it's actually in a few of your videos, one of your cooler spots you hunt, you kind of hunt on top of this hill, and it like overlooks this river, and it's like a really shallow part, but I mean, that's a pretty cool location you guys got. Yep,
it never freezes down there, and we hunted down there when there was only a high of like 3 degrees one day, and that's the day we killed a bunch of ducks. It was really cool.
Nice.
Do you not have competition at that spot?
There is. People show up early. So what we've done, like you've had to at 4 a.m. if we wanted to hunt the morning. I just hunt the afternoon out there now. Not a lot of people go out there in the afternoon, and we don't really have too much competition. We have more fishermen come down if the weather's fairly nice than we have from hunters.
That's got such a nice spot because you've got the perfect little hideout right there.
Yep, we got a little tree there, and it's kind of some branches up in front, so it works pretty good.
Well, there's about 25 yard shots you're getting, because the GoPro always looks farther. So I'm assuming those are nice and close, 20.
Yeah, the closest would be 10 yards if they come screaming by. But they're coming screaming by you if it's divers. The mallards will, they'll cut right into you, but.
That's a nice little spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's only good when the lakes are froze up around here, though. That during, regular, when it's warmer, it's not that. You could get a few, but nothing like it is late season.
It doesn't look like there's much food in there. It's just open water.
Nope, just kind of a roosting area for them.
Looks like a sweet spot, though, for sure. You guys did well there.
Yep. And there was a couple others that I didn't get on camera for whatever reason down there, but yeah, we don't want to blow it out by any means, but we hunted it probably 5 or 6 times. We don't want to ruin it, but it definitely produced a lot of birds.
Yeah, it was a cool spot. Is that spot pretty close to town? In my mind, that seems like a spot that would be somewhat close to town.
Yeah, it's, without giving too much away, it's only probably 10, 15 miles, not too far out of town.
No, we want the GPS coordinates.
Yes, please.
Along with the stream name and parking lot. So is all your hunting public then, Matt?
Almost all of it is. There's a couple has some private land back east that I'll hunt. Like what we did the ice fishing video on. That's one of our private ponds, and he just put a goose pit in, but we haven't hunted it too much.
Gotcha.
Other than that, I hunt mainly public. Yeah.
Nice. So I envy you and Elliott because you guys have so many public land opportunities, and like Indiana, man, I don't know why, but they just don't have the locations, and the locations they do are so far and few in between that they're just overrun. Like I don't think there's public besides like rivers. There's not public that's not a draw every time you go. And when you have to go and you draw and then you don't get in at all, it's no good. So
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. So I had to do some private, but I mean, some of the private spots are good. So it's hard to get private permission, and if you do, though, sometimes it can turn out pretty good. So it's kind of a double-edged sword on that.
People cry in our state all the time about the lack of public hunting that we have. I mean, just whine and moan. But if you watch my videos, how many times do you see us crowded in with other people? I mean, very, very rarely. Because I'm always showing, if there's people around, I typically show it.
Yeah. Well,
And
I mean, the thing
rarely
is,
in our videos do you see that.
you guys work hard though compared to the lot of people, which seems like a key factor. But maybe we should leave that tip for the actual.
Yeah, for sure. Because I was going to talk
podcast.
about that specific thing.
Yeah. Which let's roll with it. So I guess you guys are going to see a little bit of the behind the scenes. We have a change of plans from originally today, so just kind of film that in. We're going to do public land topic and just kind of laying out tips for public land hunting. So let's go ahead and start recording the podcast. What's going on, guys? I'm Jordan from Duck Gun Chronicles. I got my co-host alongside me, Graybeard, Elliott, the Silver Fox, the man of many names. And our guest for the day is Matt from Prairie Sportsman.
What's going on, guys?
Glad to have you back, buddy.
Yep, glad to have you back. Definitely great to have somebody from Nebraska on when we're doing a public land conversation because of all the public land opportunities you guys have in Nebraska.
Yep, you're not wrong. We got them from all corners of the state. There's a plethora and some really cool ones too.
Yep.
Beautiful state.
Oh yeah, it's
my
crazy.
Second favorite state, only second to Kansas, and I guarantee it's probably better than Kansas. It's a great state.
One crazy thing about Nebraska that I recently saw or recently found out was the Hunting Public did a video where they went turkey hunting way up in the northwest corner, and they're getting Merriam turkeys. And like in this mountainous region that I didn't really realize Nebraska had that, and that's pretty cool.
Yep. Was that the Pine Ridge?
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool country up there.
It's crazy.
That's northwest or northeast?
Oh, sorry, northwest.
Northwest, yeah.
Did I say northeast?
I couldn't remember which one you said. So
okay.
What's that, right on Wyoming? Right up on the Wyoming border? Is that what that would be?
It's a little further than that. It's around Chadron, if you know where that is, and then east of there even. There's like a couple. There's a national forest that was actually planted, and then there's a Pine Ridge area that was planted as well. But both of them are really cool country.
Lots of trees up there?
Yeah.
I think that we all get in the habit of, we think of a state and you get one idea in your mind of what it is. And that's just not the case. Like, I mean, Kansas has totally flat land like people think, but then there's forest, there's rolling hills. And I know Nebraska's, when I first saw the sand hills, I was like, what is this? This is not Nebraska.
Yep, I see it all the time on like online stuff. You know, people will be like, "Oh, Nebraska's a boring state," and stuff like. You guys got to get off the interstate. You got to go north in the sandhills. That is some of the coolest country, in my opinion. It's beautiful.
Huh? This is boring for hunting, or just boring, like
just
if they're non-hunters.
Those are big city people. Let them have their city. To me, the more people that flock to the big cities, the better. Let's just combine them all in one spot, and we can go about our way.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right, I guess let's just jump into giving out tips for the public land. I guess I'll start. One thing that I've been doing lately with public land hunting is doing a lot of online map scouting. And, in Indiana, we don't have, kind of like what I was saying earlier, we don't have a lot of options for the public land. And a lot of the public land that we got is just rivers. So I'm doing a lot of map scouting, looking for new access sites, looking for sandbars, near access sites, just going through all of that, and then trying to scout out before season, because during season you're so busy scouting out the places that you have already and the places you're going to hunt. Off season's a great time to check out via map, and then check them out before season to make sure they're viable spots. And then along with that, you want to check with your DNR just to make sure that those spots are legal to hunt, because a lot of places in Indiana it's hard to tell, opposed to some other states, I'd guess.
I'll do some of the online scouting as well. There's a lot of, I like the online plat maps and Onyx. I mean, I don't use it, but Devin does, and he's found us a couple other new spots with that. It works pretty good. Other than that, just back in college, I'd look up the lake map even online just so I could know if I could wade out there because I didn't have a dog. Still don't, but it does their job this summer or winter. But yeah, I'd look up the depth charts they use for fishing so I could know if I could wade out that far if I got a duck out there. But
Nice. But you got the kayak too.
yeah, I didn't have it back then, but now I do.
Yeah.
That really helps too.
See, that'd have to be paid not to have a kayak or a dog.
Gotta be careful.
Came close to topping them a few times.
I'll say
yeah.
with the maps as well. These days, and I'm assuming by maps you guys are talking about like Google Earth or what type of map is that to me?
Yep.
Well, anymore you can just go to GoogleEarth.com and find it. But if you download like you used to and get it onto your desktop and you pull up that Google Maps, you can actually look at. Maybe you can do this on the one. I haven't figured out how to do it yet. But I know on the ones that you download, you can look at the Google Maps historical data. Because if you're looking at the current Google Map data, it's only going to show you one snapshot. And it's important to know what date that snapshot was taken on and what the water levels were actually like at that time. Because a lot of marshes will dry some year, flood the next. So if you have access to the Google historical images, which you can download and you can roll them back, you can look over the last 15 years and look and see some places that aren't holding water now will hold water. Like I've got a handful of places that I always keep my eyes on that I know are going to flood under high water years that I don't ever hunt. There's one place now, one of my very favorite places to hunt hasn't had water for like 4 years in a row. So if you're studying maps, I wouldn't say when you say study them, you need to get obsessive about them and identify an area. So you say, okay, I know that there's some duck hunting in this area. And now spend your time studying the maps thoroughly over historical data. Put pins down on the maps, the places that you need to go out and look at, and then go out and look at them. And just make yourself a checklist. The place that I hunt now, it took me 3 years of intensive scouting to really know the area, and still every now and then I'll find a little hole. And this is after just studying the maps and looking at the maps. I'll still every now and then find a little hole. It's like, oh, there's water back in there in certain conditions. So when we say study the maps, it doesn't mean just kind of look at them. You're looking for areas that along rivers that might flood, that have flooded, and then get out there and walk and look. See what's growing up in it, and really spend lots and lots of time with these maps, and then boots on the ground after that.
So with those flooded areas, is that considered public land then in Kansas, or is it just the floodplain?
The place I'm talking about is all public.
Okay.
In the state of Kansas, which is not this way. In Missouri, any waterway is public. You just can't get outside of what they call the riverbanks. In Kansas, there's only about 3 rivers that are public. The rest of the rivers you just can't even touch, because in order to get in the other river systems, you have to have landowner permission on both sides anywhere that you go. So that makes it, to travel it with a boat, that makes it impossible, because you're talking, you'd have to have permission of 40, 50 guys if you went 5 miles or something. It's just not doable. So the navigable waterways that are public, if it floods outside the banks, you still can't do it. You have to stay inside of the high water mark. So the places I'm talking about are specifically inside of public hunting areas. So we've got an area around here that has lots of trees. You've got a big reservoir, and you've got river system. And that's a good place to look. Reservoirs where the river comes in to it are really good places to look.
So it's pretty confusing though.
Well, if you just look at the reservoir, look at the water system that goes into it. When you have high water, they're going to hold water in that reservoir, and so that water is going to back up into that river system. And as it backs up into that river system, you're going to have flooded pools.
Well, how does it flood higher than the high water mark? Because that's what's confusing. Because you say the high water mark, and the high water mark should be where the water's the highest, right? And then if it floods past that, then that's the new high water mark.
No, that's outside its banks.
Okay.
And these areas, this is all public. What I'm talking about. So you've got the Kansas River, where the high water mark pertains, right? And that's once you get into the Kansas River. You can go up and down it, all over it, but you cannot come outside of the banks, essentially, no matter what the water levels are. So if the water levels spill outside the banks into a cornfield, you can't go into it because that's now into a flooded area.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But in the wildlife areas, like the one I'm talking about, then you have a reservoir, and then the water system that flows into that, all of that is public. And all the fields that adjoin it, these are where most of the marshes are contained. But the thing is, you've got a couple marshes that 80% of the people hunt because you can just roll into the parking lot and get out and go. But then if you really get into it, there's all these other little pools and all these other areas that you can't just roll into a parking lot and see. You have to actually go and find. And those are the places that I'm talking about, the places that actually take work to finding. And once you find those, then you're not hunting with, shoulder to shoulder with people anymore.
How are your rivers, Matt?
In Nebraska, you can get on any body of water as long as you're not touching the bottom. Like basically all water. So you could go on someone's private pond if they dropped you in like a raft from a helicopter. But, yeah.
I wish I could have been in some of these like original board meetings, like where they're like making the laws, like, no, you can be in the river, but if your foot touches, you're trespassing. Because like I've heard a lot of like stories like that from the fly fishing community as well, whereas like people will stand and watch, and if your boat like hits a rock under the water, then they can call the DNR on you for trespassing. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how those things got set up the way they're set up.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, at least in Michigan for the fly fishing, like the duck hunting and fly fishing are totally different. I had fly fishing in Michigan, and I thought about getting a hunting license for Michigan and hunting the rivers for there as well. But it's just, it's like Elliott saying, you got to have permission on both sides. And it's just, it's impossible. So I'm just not getting a license to hunt there.
Yeah. A lot of people just do it anyway, but especially in more rural areas, people are just like, well, screw that. We're gonna go these little rivers and do it anyway. But that's technically the way. Now, in Missouri, if it's, I think you can touch the bottom in Missouri. I think, I'm not positive.
You can in Indiana. See, like, how do you, if you touch the bottom, like Matt's saying, like you couldn't wade out to get your bird. Like if you shot one, you'd have to be in a kayak, sitting off the bank 2 feet, shoot it, and then paddle out and get it, right?
And technically you couldn't even have decoys with weights on them. Like if any of your property touches it, that is trespassing, at least in Nebraska. Like even throwing out a fishing line with a weight on it, that weight's touching the bottom, it's trespassing.
Now, that's true of all rivers?
All waters in Nebraska.
Like private?
I know that we canoed the Niobrara one time when we were up there fishing.
Don't fall out.
And is that true? So would that have been true? Because I mean, lots of people canoe and kayak the Niobrara. So that's true on that river as well?
The Niobrara is like a special, I don't know, it has because it's like designated a scenic river or something. So I think Game and Parks has some agreement with landowners, or I don't know what the whole deal is with that, but there's a special agreement in place up there.
Oh, okay.
And there's a few state parks along it too. So part of it's state owned.
I know with Kansas, the ones they call navigable rivers. So rivers that they used to use for commerce, where they had merchant ships going up and down. Those are the ones they said, okay, these are public. But if you can't get some type of, if there was never any kind of merchant traffic on the waterways, then those are the ones that are all private.
That's how Indiana is as well. So anyone that's navigable, you can hunt, you can touch the bottom, everything. I mean, you can even sit on the banks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's probably the truth. You probably can't come out of the riverbanks, just like Kansas, though. because we can hunt the banks too. You can give up on the banks. You just got to determine where the high water mark is and not go past that. And that is the high river mark that's a subjective thing, obviously.
Yeah.
Or the high water mark, not the high river mark. High water mark.
All right, Matt, you want to drop us some public land knowledge?
Okay. Well, I guess probably one of the things I do, and I know Elliott wants to talk about this too, is I put in a lot more work than other people. That's one thing I think that'll really help more successful, especially on public land. I've hunted around like Lincoln and eastern Nebraska, and I see parking lots right there, and they'll set up 10 yards from the parking lot. I'm not to say the birds won't come by, they won't swing by, but if you backpack back there or kayak back somewhere, put this time in scouting and all that, do the hard work, you'll be rewarded, or eventually you will be.
Yeah, and some of the reward from that is just being away from everybody else, because sometimes that's worth more than just having a great hunt. Getting out there further in seclusion and in nature.
Yeah, I've said that on my videos a ton of times. I would rather shoot 3 ducks off by myself, or even 2 ducks by myself, than scratch out a limit around a bunch of people. Our number one goal is to not just shoot ducks, but to shoot ducks in isolation away from everyone else. So in order to do that, you need to know, where does everyone else go? And you find where everyone else goes, which is typically going to be the best feed spots, because the game managers are going to cultivate those pools the best. So what starts happening is the ducks will sleep in those pools, and they will night feed in those pools. And you'll come in the morning and you'll hear just thousands and thousands of birds quacking. And then as soon as sun comes up, they're gone. So finding where they go to, if you find some of these other surrounding pools that don't have as good a feed as some of the main pools, then you can catch ducks coming in. They'll be full bellied from the night, and they'll be coming to hide or loaf. And that's kind of what we target.
So where's your cutoff point then? Is 0 ducks in isolation better than a limit by people, or?
No.
So what's the cutoff? You got a cutoff, or?
Well, it depends on the experience. You can hunt, if you're hunting, I don't like even seeing people when I'm out hunting. I don't even like seeing them. But I mean, not that I have a problem with them. It's just so much more fun if you can't see anyone else.
Yeah.
Because you just feel like you're all by yourself. If I can see other people, but they're going about their business and they're not sky busting and they're not just blowing their call like crazy, I can't hear them laughing and yelling and shouting. Kind of makes me seem like a jerk to say that, but I like people to be. I'm very quiet in the marsh, and I like people to be quiet. So if they're handling themselves in the way that I personally enjoy, then being around some people doesn't bother me. If they're hooting and hollering and yelling and sky busting and calling my ducks and the whole day is a frustration, then it's hard on my emotions that way. I get worked up.
I hear you. That reminds me, I had a experience like that last year where I went out and out in the marsh, and this is like a small section where like two groups can hunt at max probably, and so I'm on the front of this island. This guy is like 250 yards like behind this island, another island, and he's set up on that far side. And every single time I called the ducks, he called. Every single time, like he couldn't even see him. And every time I called, he would call. And at first I'm like, is this guy calling every time I call? And then I do it again. I'm like, this guy's calling every single time I call. So just to test the guy, I didn't see geese at all. I switched to my goose call, started goose calling, and I hear this guy goose calling. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I ended up just leaving.
Yeah.
That actually kind of reminds me of another thing, I guess. That actually can work in your favor when people are calling a lot or tons of mojos. So like middle of the season, late of the season, we'll put the mojos away. We'll hardly call because the ducks are used to everybody just blowing on hail calls or seeing 10 mojos out there. And if we have one, we'll have maybe one, and it depends on the weather. But we hardly call. We'll just give them a couple small confidence quacks, get them in there, and usually we have better results than the people, hunting boat blinds or whatever else, just because you kind of just shut up and the birds, they'll come into you.
Yeah.
So you think that one mojo is better than 10 late season?
Yeah. I don't even put the mojo out, and I'll put it out for teal season and early duck, and then I usually put it away unless the weather cloudy. I don't like it. But
see, I've heard people saying things about mojo, but honestly, I've never had an issue. But I've only ran, the max I've ever ran is 2 or 3, and I've never had an issue with them. I don't know if that's because I'm further north than everybody.
No, we don't ever run more than 2 either. I don't like huge spreads of 7 or 8 or 9. I just don't like how it looks. I don't like how it feels. But we run 1 or 2, and we've never had any success in pulling the spinner. I mean, if we have days where the birds are being shy or aren't quite doing what we want to do, we frequently try to pull the spinner and see if it makes a difference. And not one time has it ever helped us. I know lots of people say that it's helped them. And so we keep trying it, but I've never, ever had it leave a favorable response pulling it. And I've heard that recently about the sunlight versus the cloudy, about it's so much better in the sunlight. And that's really interesting. I'd never thought about that until one of the guys we had on was talking about that. I think it was John, I believe. But
I don't remember.
but that's an interesting point about the cloudy versus the sunny.
All right, you're up for the. Oh, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I don't want to take over the whole thing here, but what I guess basically my public land strategy is just kind of be different than anyone else or everyone else. Switch it up, try different things and see how the birds react. And if they don't like it, we'll switch it up. I mean, keep trying it. You're not wasting time if they'll come back 10 o'clock or whenever. So I just try to be different. That's probably the number one thing I could tell people.
By switch it up, do you mean that you do a lot of decoy spread adjustments during the hunt?
Yeah. Yep. I'll and just starting out, I did a decoy video about this, but kind of so you got your basic decoy patterns. People will use the U or the J or whatever, and I'll use those every now and then, or variations of them. Like I'll do pods of ducks more than some, or based on scouting, how we have them out here at some of the lakes is they really hug the cattails tight, and then there'll be a little group, a bunch of coots and stuff, and no one out here uses coot decoys, just as an example. So I went out and bought 6 coot decoys, got laughed at it already last year for them, but they worked. I actually think that was part of our success last year. Just different things like that. And I got diver decoys too, just something that pulls their attention away from all the other, just basic decoy spreads.
Maybe we could get Mojo to get on board and make us a coot mojo.
Make one with running feet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Have you ever been rolling in a boat with a bunch of coots around and just watch how they try to get up off the water? And they are the clumsiest looking birds. Oh my Lord. They're funny.
All right, you're up, Elliott.
Well, one thing, piggybacking on what he said a little bit, then I had another. Let's see if I can think of it. But if the ducks aren't doing what we want, we do the same thing. We will shift the decoy spread a bunch, and eventually you can figure it out. If the ducks, on days where the ducks just aren't quite doing what you want to do, whether they're what you want them to do, whether they're landing on the outskirts of your decoy or whatever, if you just keep shifting your decoys around, a lot of times you can find something to where you're getting the land where you want them to land. And sometimes it's as simple as moving everyone back 10 yards. That's more and more. That's the first thing we're trying when we can't land birds. It's just to move everyone back 10 yards, and that we're having great success about that. And you mentioned the 2 pods. This is the second year in a row we've gone to 2 pods. I'm assuming you mean just like a group two groups and then a big space in the middle.
Yeah. Yep.
We've gone to that more and more the last 2 years with great success. And we go to that a lot where days where the wind is completely wrong and we can't fix it, to where they have to kind of, if the wind's going from your back, which is very few days, but there's some days where you just have to set up where the wind's at your back. And we've had great success with pods on that day, getting them to come swing around in front of us and then shoot them as they're landing in between those two pods going away. So I definitely like the 2-pod system that you were talking about. I had another one about public, and I can't think of what it was right now. You go ahead and go on. I had it. It'll come back.
I was going to ask you about something you just said. Now I'm trying to think of what it was. I guess I'll just go ahead and we'll come back to that if we think of it.
Okay.
For my next tip for public land is just know all the options you're going to have. Have a plan B, have a plan C, because no matter what you think about your secret spot, sometimes somebody's going to be there and you're going to have to go to a different spot. And, so know all your surrounding locations. And there's been plenty of times where I've gone to my go-to spot and drove somewhere else. And, it really stinks when that happens. And usually you're in a bad mood, but, you'll be in even a worse mood if you don't have a plan C or D or whatever you get out to, and you have to come home on the last day of the season or something like that.
That is a really good one, having a plan B and a plan C. I think if everyone had a plan B and a plan C, you would see less crowding. Yeah. Because I think what happens is, and I guess that's a tip of mine, is be willing to walk away. If you only have a plan A and you get to a parking lot and there's 1,000 people there, but that's your only plan, and you're up early and you want to hunt, it's a lot more tempting to walk in because you don't have a plan B or plan C. And I think you need a C and maybe a D most of the time. And we will talk about that. It's like, okay, if someone's here, what's our plan B? What's our plan C? In fact, one of our videos from season 2, we had a really great hunt where someone beat us into a spot and we went to plan B, and it ended up being a really good hunt. But if everyone has a plan A, B, and C, you're going to get a lot less crowding. And then even when you're walking in, if you're walking into a public spot and you can't find a place to set up, then you need to turn around and walk out. And that takes a lot of self-discipline. But if everyone beats you in and there's no spot for you to set up where you're not too close to everyone else, you either need to find someone else to hunt with and ask them, or you just need to walk out. You have to be willing to do it.
Yeah, I had a situation last year. It was actually the last day of the season, and me and my buddy were going to go out on the big river in his boat. And this was when we were having like the super, super cold conditions. It was like wind chills in the negative teens, and his boat wouldn't start. Like, we tried to start it. We tried like heating it up. Like, we were even like torching the thing, trying to warm it up. And, but we could never get it to start. So, that was plan A. Plan B, I went down to a public spot, and there was already, I was either the third or fourth group there. And so I just left. Even one of the groups asked me if I wanted to join because I was by myself, but they had like a group of 4 or 5, and I was like, and they had to like break ice, and like they were already going to their plan B somewhere else. And I'm like, nah, I'm done. I'm like, I'm not going to do that either. So, unfortunately, I didn't have a plan C after that. And the last day of the season, I didn't get to hunt.
It takes discipline to do that, but it's not worth ruining other people's hunts just because you haven't planned properly and you get beat in somewhere. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Move on to another day. I need to give a quick shout out. I've got a cousin apparently that I don't know that just reconnected with my father in New Jersey named Lisa. And so she's watching right now. So hello, Lisa. My cousin I've never met, but my dad has a really cool, well, it's not really a cool background, a really tragic background with his dad and brothers dying. And so he's reconnecting with some of his family members. So I wanted to give a shout out to Lisa.
What's up, Lisa? So Matt,
Fumble says start boat the night before. Yeah, that's a great one. For public, anytime you're putting on your boat, start it the night before. Make sure it's working.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Excellent. I don't have to think about that because I use a canoe, so it's just, paddle.
Yeah.
So Matt, you probably don't have to have a plan A or B or all that. You just have plan A, and there's so much wide open space. You just go there and never have competition.
Well, yeah, it kind of depends where we hunt. In the Sandhills, there's a lot of public areas, and they're so big, so you hardly like I don't think we've seen a person hunting up there yet, other than we had one hunt get cut short by some fishermen, but that was it. But we haven't seen anyone duck hunt up there. Maybe that'll change this fall after the past videos. I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe you keep posting your videos, that'll change.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like change the name. Anonymous Nebraska location.
I stopped talking about Kansas after somewhere during season 2, where I just decided that people were kind of messaging me like, hey, I just decided that I would drop the name out, and I talk about it here on the podcast, but in my videos I don't really talk about Kansas anymore. I started to get a little more paranoid.
I've had people comment already asking where they, where we hunt or even where we fish, and I won't answer that. I'll respond to anyone else, any other comments, but I won't tell you. I mean, you got to put in some of the work yourself.
Yeah, don't give them any info.
Yeah.
I get people emailing me all the time saying, I'm coming to Kansas in this month. Where should I go? What should I expect? I may tell you, but it's not going to be anywhere that I'm going to be hunting. I can promise you that.
First, you're going to need a check for the guide service.
Yeah.
You need a down payment. And so a couple things that I forgot to mention earlier about the maps. Sorry to do this all out of order, but one tip for the maps that is pretty useful. I know in Indiana, we can't hunt in city limits. I'm pretty sure that's the same everywhere, but one tip for Google Maps, if you're curious if your location is within city limits, if you type in the city and search it on Google Maps, it'll put a red boundary all the way around it, and you can see if your spot in the river is outside of the city limits. So like, let's say it's in I'm trying to like Kansas City. You just type in Kansas City, and it'll put a boundary all the way around it, and you can look on the river and see if your spot's outside of it. So I always do that when I'm looking at new spots, because Indiana is pretty close to cities everywhere, unfortunately. No, and then another thing that I was thinking of, there's a spot that I've been looking at on the maps, and it's like almost 2 hours away from my house. And I was curious how far you guys are willing to drive to go to public land spots regularly, because I know you guys are probably
with or without camping.
Without camping.
Without an overnight? What about you, Matt? Without an overnight. What about you, Matt?
Oh, I've gone 90 minutes one way. So, 3 a.m. get up time, and then get out there about half hour or whatever before shooting time to get set up and everything.
90 minutes.
That's
about the max I've done so far.
One time we did 3 hours for a snow goose hunt. But that's a one-time thing. We got up 3 hours, charged back. I'm with Matt though. 90 minutes is, if I'm going to do it consistently, that hour and a half is kind of my outer limits. Now, if the place was just amazing, you might stretch me to an hour and 45. But typically, an hour and a half is. I really don't want to do more than that consistently. But normally we do about an hour. 45 minutes to an hour is our normal. But I will do an hour and a half.
Gotcha. Yeah, my max so far has been an hour, but I'm trying to find some new locations this year and wanting to hunt some different rivers, and some of that's going to stretch me out a little further, I think.
The place we hunt early season, if you see like teal, a lot of teal, the prairie marshes, that's 2.5. No, that's 3.5 hours. But we always camp when we do that.
Nice.
Now for those public or those teal hunts, do you guys have it like, I know in the basins in Nebraska, those guys will show up at like midnight and just stay in their trucks? Mm-hmm. Is it like that down there, like a war zone pretty much? Or
the opening can be like that, but there's no. I mean, there are a few people I know on our teal opener. Well, it was actually opening day of regular last year when we were in the tornado. If you guys remember that video. We got to the parking lot and there was one truck there that had slept, but we were walking before they were out of their truck sleeping. But it depends on where it is. There are certainly places in Kansas where people do that, but not typically the place that we go.
Okay.
So there's this this time last year. It was the first opening day of early goose season, and similar like you guys saying, like people sleeping out in their trucks, but these guys were sleeping out in their boat. And so they'd been out there. I think they'd been out there since the evening before. So anyways, I got to the boat launch like 4:30. I thought I was going to be the first one there, and these guys are already down the river. So I'm in my canoe. I can go upstream or downstream. I have no idea where these guys went. And so I just picked. I picked one way, and I went upstream. And, I knew where the geese were at, and go up there, and apparently they'd got in there before the geese, because all the geese were roosted right next to these guys in their boat. And so I go past them and like just bust up, like literally it was like 500 geese or something. But these guys didn't have their lights on. Obviously they were asleep in their boat. And so unfortunately, they were right there. I probably messed up their hunt too, because all the birds just flew away. But yeah, it gets crazy when people are camping out in their boat and you don't know which way they went, and you can't really beat them, if they're staying there all night.
Well, that's normally opening day stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, I want to get you guys, so you guys can get close on this. So Kansas put out their numbers. I saw historical numbers for your average hunter, how many times he hunts per year. I'll go with you first, Jordan. In Kansas, how many times a year do you think the average hunter goes out duck hunting? Out of all the people, all the duck hunters that hunted, because we have a system where you have to log when you hunt. So they have this data. They know for a fact. How many times a year do you think the average duck hunter went hunting?
In Kansas, I'm going to say, oh man, it's got to be low. I'm going to say single digits, because I know we're outliers, and there's probably a lot of people just go like opening day. So I'll say 4.
4? What do you think, Matt?
He took my number. I'll go 3.
It was 5. 5. For the average guy. So if you think of all the guys like us that go out as much as we can, we're outliers one way. There are a bunch of people that go out just 1-2 times. There's a bunch of people that only go out opening day.
How many times do you go out, Matt? Do you keep track?
Yeah. It's got to be about 50 days, probably.
Holy crap. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wait, how many days is your season?
Well, it's basically first of October all the way to the end of January. And those first 3 weeks are when I go up to the Sandhills. Then it opens up closer to where I'm living. So I can, as soon as I get off work, I got all my stuff already loaded. I throw my waders on and I'm headed to the marsh. For that first week.
That's insane, but I mean that's good at the same time. But like I think I went between like I think I messed up some of my days, so I don't have the exact number, but I think it was between like 32 and 36 days, which like I can't imagine going like more than that. It's just
it's hard.
It's hard, yeah.
And not go through a divorce, right?
Not go through a divorce and not travel, because I don't travel like north or south in other states. Like that would open up like a couple more weeks, but it'd be hard. I'd be hard pressed to get more than I did this year.
Matt, do you record your bird numbers and keep track of any kind of statistics of what you do at all?
Yeah, I do have a duck journal I keep. And then last year I actually got sent one of those U.S. Fish and Game wildlife surveys.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first year I ever got one of those, but I tracked it on there and my duck journal too. It's kind of like your website, not as in depth with the shots that I miss and stuff, but about the same.
Well, I would encourage you, I'm a little plug here, to create an account on Freelance HuntStats, because just now in the test mode, I've been playing with it this week. We've got the sortable aspect of it done. So I have now logged my last 10 years of hunts, which is like 250 hunts in the last 10 years. I've got all of that data in there. And now we're to the point where I can just go and say, how did I do on sunny days? How did I do on cloudy days? How did I do on north wind? And it's in test phase right now. And we're getting ready to unveil that. And that is going to be a game changer, to be able to go and look exactly on what weather variables at different places that you do well. So I would encourage, and you know what? I talked to him just 2 days ago about it. We're on for free. You're going to be able to go in there and we're going to pool everyone's data. There's been like over 1,000 hunts logged on Freelance HuntStats. You're going to go on the main page and everyone's data is going to be pooled into group statistics, and you'll be able to play with everyone's data. So you can see what your average person shoots, what they're shooting, what type of weather they're doing the best at. I am so excited about it. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea and a great site.
So
I have one request though. Can we add a slot for number of mojos used in a hunt?
are you? That's actually not a bad idea, for real.
I know. I want to be able to prove Matt wrong about the 10 mojos not being gold.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. And you know what else I'd like to do is type of shot and choke.
Oh, yeah. If you could see percentages and sort by type of ammo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You say, what's my shooting percentage with Remington 2s?
Yeah, and you'd be like, oh, man, heavy shot, man. They're just like literally 7% better than every other brand or something like that. You know?
So the stat freaks are just going to go nuts. Like, well, with Remington 2s on north wind sunny days with a modified choke, I average 0.5% higher.
You could see like the difference between 20 gauge and 12 gauge shotguns on geese or something like that.
Seriously, once those filters are in place, you can spend hours on that site just playing with your data.
The only thing you have to worry about is people being trolls or something, you know,
and faking their data.
Yeah, like someone saying they use like a 20 gauge with like a cylinder choke with size 8 shot on geese.
Just to mess it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you could always like have like some kind of filter to filter out anomalies.
Yeah. Or we could only count members' stats too. That would be another way to do it. Because you can go on there now for free and keep all of your logs and see all the stats from individual hunts. You just can't pool all your data together and look at your lifetime stats. So maybe we'll just do it for members only. That way people can't create accounts just to be stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to get that in there because I'm so excited about it. And that's what my wife drew a little Jordan. I wish we had that. We got to get that on. We got to get that on the Facebook page because my wife is a professional artist and she drew a little cartoon Jordan. You know what picture she got that one off of, don't you?
Yeah, I know exactly which one. I've showed a lot of people that already. Yeah. It's awesome.
Feel free to post that on Instagram. So that type of art is going to be.
Can it be my Facebook profile picture?
Yeah, man, do it. Do it. She's gonna make a bunch of these little duck kind of cartoonish duck hunters, but still holding some masculinity to them. They're not like girly, and that's gonna be the type of art that's all over the website. It's gonna be cool.
Is it too late to make a request for that picture?
What? Probably not.
I want a band added to like one of the ducks.
Okay, a
little band on the foot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For sure.
All right.
After we're done, now for those of you that want to go to Facebook, Fellowship of the Duck Gun, and the little tiny Jordan cartoon figure that my wife drew that's going to do I have your permission to put that on the website? Because I don't want 10 years later you like suing me.
Me?
Right?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I think
so
it's
I have permission to use that. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, 10 years later, like, you used my little cartoon me. You owe me.
Yeah, it's like you used the likeness of me to promote.
Those of you that are listening, go to Facebook, Fellowship of the Duck Guns, and you will see. We need to name it. I call it little cartoon, little Jordan Duck Hunter, and we'll put him on there.
No, we can come up with a better name than Little Jordan.
Little J.
Little J.
I don't know. Well, but we'll get that. I'll get her to put a band on there.
Mini Duck Gun.
She's using an iPad, so her artwork's all digital, so she can add stuff.
I'll link Fellowship of the Duck Guns in the chat, so you guys, if you haven't found it.
Is there any way, can you link also, I'm sure you're faster than me, than Matt's video? Someone was wanting a link to Matt's video of where we were talking about on that little creek where he was pounding. He's got several of them.
Oh, yeah, I can. I'll get that too.
Okay, because
also,
that's
what the heck? Why I want this? Oh, here we go. Yeah, I'll get that. I'll add that too. 1 second. There's the Fellowship of the Duck Gun link, guys, if you're interested in checking us out. I'll get Matt's video now.
And if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to listen to these podcasts, I listen to it on Podbean because I always want to hear just kind of how it sounds and everything. And so when I'm in my car, that's typically the avenue that I'm using to listen to the Duck Hunt podcast is Podbean. I find that to be the easiest to find it.
I like iTunes the best because I can use it on my phone.
I just downloaded the Podbean app.
Oh.
And I follow it, and that's just been the easiest for me. But make sure, guys, if you're watching this, that you check that out because we're up to 19 now.
Yeah. And if you guys can do us a big favor, when you're on the iTunes site, drop us a review, 5-star rating, and it helps us out a ton. Be found in search on iTunes. That's how they do their search. So yeah. Matt, what's the name of that video where you're hunting over the creek?
The Birds Are Here is one, and then Frigid Fouling would be the other one.
Okay.
It's one of the first ones I think you come to on his. Isn't it the one with all the ducks laid out in a row?
Yeah,
that's one of them.
It comes up right. It's like the featured one.
And here's Matt's video.
Definitely worth watching. So Matt, with your new camera, if you could go back in time and do those hunts again, tell me how you envision using. Tell what camera you got and how you envision using it on hunts like that.
So I got the Sony A6300. Still figuring out the autofocus. You saw the turkey hunt video, didn't really turn out the best. But for obviously, if I'm doing a kayak hunt, I wouldn't even consider bringing it out just in case I capsize, because then I'd be out a lot of money. But like those late season hunts and the goose hunts, I probably get some in the blind action and just some more B-roll, really, be it just trying to set the scene more, immerse the viewer into the video more.
What about kill?
Kind of what I'm
gonna try to use it for kill shots.
Yeah, I'll put my gun down a little bit more this upcoming season.
That's the big question. Are you willing to put the gun down?
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Well, I think once you actually start getting shots with that camera, you'll find that it's really fun, and you don't mind putting the gun down near as much. It's fun, actually.
Didn't you get a 50mm lens?
Yeah.
You haven't used it yet, though, have you?
Not in the video. The only video I've done other than my hunting boot camp videos is that turkey hunt video, and I didn't have the zoom lens on it. So I don't know, I'm still figuring out the focus and just how the whole camera works.
You see, all my B-roll shots, I use that 50mm lens, or the equivalent on Micro Four Thirds, and I love the 50mm look. It looks great. So get good with that. It's worth it.
That's what I used for like the B-roll on my turkey hunt, or the turkey hunt video that we posted too.
Okay.
See, all of that is why I couldn't pull the trigger on a DSLR, and I went with that Canon G40, which I'm thrilled with right now. The autofocus on it is so superior to my Panasonic. It just locks onto stuff so easily. The clarity I love, but I know that there's things that it can't do that you guys can do. But it just seems so overwhelming. It's like you say, oh, I'm still trying to figure it out. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I don't have to.
But once you figure it out, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm there, I figured it out, and it's great.
I went back and forth, and
I mean, I don't think you can go wrong. I think you need both. It's just you can't. It's like money. Like
I just didn't want to have to deal with the multiple lenses, and if you can master that stuff, I know I just couldn't pull the trigger on it.
That's like buying a shotgun, but like you don't want multiple chokes. Like you need like different, lenses for different jobs, and
yeah.
Because I love that 50mm. Like, it is a pain sometimes, and you have to be careful like where you're doing it. Like you don't want to do it where you can get your camera dirty, and but like I don't know. I just can't say enough about having a 50mm lens. It's just I don't know.
And you do wonders with that B-roll stuff, and I really don't even really attempt to. Maybe I should.
I mean, you probably do it some with your new camera. I don't know how exactly it works, but
now does your DSLR have a 1-inch sensor?
No, it has a Micro Four Thirds, which it's a smaller sensor.
Because that if I was going to buy a DSLR, I would certainly buy one with a 1-inch sensor. Because you can get one for under $1,000 with a 1-inch sensor. To me, from my reading, that's the big advantage of them is the sensor size typically, because you're losing stability. Typically, like Matt, I know I read up on yours, and one thing that I would suggest that you do is get a shoulder mount on it, because the only negative I found from yours is the stabilization is a real issue. with that camera. But you can buy a little shoulder harness for $75 that you got one little thing you're holding on, it slips on your shoulder. You buy one of those, and now your stabilization is a million times better, which I'm going to get anyway. But but the stabilization, I know, is something that's an issue. And ultimately, DSLRs are number one made to take pictures and video second, but they can do it really, really well. But it's everything that's supposedly intuitive about it is more intuitive towards still shots. And I was just overwhelmed by, like I said, I thought it was going to be too big of a learning curve for me, but I'm sure you guys will master them.
So
the upside is huge. The upside is huge with them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think both options are good. It's just, it depends what you want to do. Like, if you want to focus more on like having like superior kill shots and stabilization on images further away, like you're saying, then I think you pick the right option. But for me, like, I kind of wanted to, be able to do like multiple things and maybe not everything perfect.
Yeah.
Matt, does your camera have electronic stabilization or not? Then with your,
I honestly don't know off the top of my head.
I don't think it does. I think
okay.
Because he told me it had, and I just did research on it. Because he put out his video getting it like right after I'd pulled the trigger on my G40, and I was like, no, I was like, because the night before I was so perplexed. I was like, what am I gonna do? I don't know whether I should go DSLR. And I see this video of his, I'm like, oh, I know I'm gonna watch his videos. I'm just gonna kick myself that I didn't get one of those. And so I researched it, and that was the only knock on it that I could find was the stabilization. Everything else, like, it's an awesome thing.
Does it not have that option, or is it just the kit lens doesn't have it? Or because I know certain lenses don't have it on like my camera. I have to look at what lenses have it, and lenses that have the electronic stabilization cost way more than ones that don't.
Well, and some of the camcorders, they're making the interior lens and system to actually float. And mine isn't quite that good. But you can buy an $800 camcorder where the interior lens floats, and you can literally record yourself walking up a set of steps, and it's not shaky. Which I do a lot of walking and talking and stuff like that. So with those DSLRs, you just have to be really careful in how you're using them and the stabilization on them. But if you're thoughtful of it, especially if I had a DSLR, I would get one of those little shoulder things. $75 is all it cost. And that would make a huge difference right there. But I think that's the main thing you need to worry about and be concerned with.
I did get a pretty nice tripod for it. One big thing that I think it'll help is with the GoPros, they're really limited in low light conditions. So I'm hoping this, you can see the birds better first thing. So I'll set that up and try to get some kill shots just from the tripod, or even holding it myself. But those low light shots is one of the reasons I really looked at this.
Does that have pretty good low light ratings, that camera?
They're not terrible. They're better than the GoPro. So
it's going to be way better than the GoPro for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bigger sensor. The GoPro has tiny sensor.
Yeah, the bigger sensor you get, the better low light it's going to be for sure.
Yep.
Actually, my dad bought a $500 DSLR, which I keep forgetting which I had it for about a week. So I'm hoping that we can use his camera for those still shots. That's why I told him, I was like, this year, what I want you to do is just focus on getting still shots. And we purposefully think about our still shots and not just take shots, but, like get in front of the dog and throw a retrieve out and get the dog coming towards you with the right settings, and that kind of stuff. That I figure you're doing that kind of stuff, Jordan, with the pictures you're getting. Is my assumption.
Yeah. I mean,
I make you're staging some of the shots that you're taking.
No. I shoot the bird. And I sprint out there and make Chief stay, dive in the water, and then I'm like, Chief.
But you're being real purposeful about your shots.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I take a lot of time to do it, especially like if I have time after it, because I know like the use they're gonna have, especially with YouTube and Instagram, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy. It's afterwards, during the off season, getting to relive some of the memories through the photographs,
Yeah, I love your pictures, man. You do an awesome job with that.
Thanks. Yeah, so if you get that DSLR from Fumblemitts, you should be able to get some good thumbnail pictures to add on to your stuff too. So,
Yeah,
see if you
that's
already have that too.
yeah, that makes me even feel better about it.
Can you get different lenses for it?
I'm sure you can. It's a I think it's called a lumens, or no? It's the one Panasonic makes.
Yeah, that's the same I got. Is it G7?
I can't remember. I'll look it up. That'd be awesome. You could just school me on it.
Yeah, it might
it's
be.
not very good low light. The sensors on it's pretty small. That's the big knock.
It's probably it's probably the same one as mine then.
Oh, that would be sweet.
It might be one step lower, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well,
either way,
sit down. You can help me with some of the lenses and how you're getting some of those shots, because I had it for about a week and just played around with it and got to learn it and everything, and at least have a little bit of watch some videos. And so, yeah, we need to get some extra lenses and stuff. So we'll talk about that.
Awesome. Well, I guess this might be a good point to go ahead and wrap it up. You got anything you want to add, Matt?
No, we got a little kind of off topic there, but I think we hit most of the stuff in public land.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing I'd want to add is, if you are around people, just be courteous. Be courteous of your other hunter. Be safe. Just know where everyone's at, and everyone should get along, and everyone hopefully have a good hunt then.
Yep.
Amen to that. I would say if you want to be successful on public land, then you need to put in the time that it takes to learn the area and be willing to put in the effort that it takes to do it. And then there's available access for everybody.
I agree. All right. Well, I guess that's all for us tonight, guys. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. Matt, just go ahead and give everybody a lowdown of where they can find you on social media again.
Yeah, guys. So we're at High Prairie Sportsman, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Whole30, and YouTube. You can find us on any of those sites. Yeah.
All righty. That's all we got tonight. We'll see you guys next time.